Hey everybody, Zeal Brothers here once again, this one in response to a very weird article. And so I'm always trying to bring the truth to the old and to the youth. And in this one, we're going to respond to an editorial. Now, this editorial is long. I just had to say it is long. But the gist of the editorial is this. The Christian far right is creating these odd doctrines that combine some kind of worship of slavery and the establishment of biblical law to try to undermine democracy. And many Christians and many people on the right are buying into this. And that's why the Supreme Court stood and supported the Texas abortion law, and they didn't stay their decision. And that's why a lot of the different movements that are going on across the country that fight against abortion are happening now. And that's why so many people are saying that those on the left who have COVID restrictions are instituting tyranny. So let me just say that this is going to be one of these kind of articles are simply one of many. And the long gist of all these articles is that there is some Christian conspiracy out there to stop people. And the gist of it is that there is some magic, guy behind the curtain that is operating us puppets that are speaking in public. And we may not vouch for the fact that we all believe what he believes, but he is slowly feeding the entire traditional wing of all Christianity and feeding them this theology. And we don't even know where we got it, but we absorb it by osmosis. And we go out there, and when we go out there, we want to beat up somebody gay by the time we're done getting all this mess. And the problem with those kind of theories is that there really is not any kind of connection between the idea that they see, which will often be wild, and the actual practice that we see in the church. So, for example, in this article, they talk about somebody who is pushing to institute biblical law throughout the country and to create executions for all the things that the Bible executes people for. And we don't see that, right? That's not a thing. Now, you may find one person on the internet who might say that, but that's not a thing. Now, what do we think on Zeal Brothers? I could be considered to be a very strong Christian and one who stands on God's word and loves Mosaic law. I love Mosaic law. I love the book of Leviticus. I love the book of Deuteronomy. These are the ones that have the most laws. I love the book of Numbers. I love the Bible in general. And some people would even accuse me of taking the Bible too literally. But I would say this, that I don't take the Bible literally. I take the Bible as it is written, which is most often literally, but every once in a while the Bible will speak in metaphors and you interpret it in that fashion. But basically we do interpret it literally because that's what it is saying, right? If it says thou shalt not steal, you should not steal. So that's how we interpret the scriptures here on Zeal Brothers. And what we do and what Christians ought to do is you need to recognize that people will always be trying to trash you. Right? They'll always be trying to trash you. And one of the favorite things that the cultural left likes to do is they like to assign agendas to people that may or may not be legitimate. And let's just give an example. Let's say that you're somebody who legitimately believes that a wall should be established on the southern border. They will try to ascribe the motivation of racism to your idea that building a border makes sense. Now, forget the fact that the Chinese had a wall against the Mongolians. Forget the fact that the Israelis have a wall. Forget the fact that people have been building walls from time immemorial. Forget the fact that Hollywood stars got walls around their mansions so that people can't just bust in. Forget all those facts. Forget all that logic. If you want to build a wall, you a dang racist and you just want to just kill a Mexican guy the moment you see him. That's what they do, right? So by ascribing an illegitimate motive to a proposal that in many ways makes sense and really shouldn't even be political. It shouldn't even be in a political thing that you should have a border. When did that become controversial? I don't even understand. That should not be a left or right issue. It should just be an issue. Hey, people getting across the border. Should they be here? No. Well, why don't we do something to stop them from coming in? Makes sense. Done. That's how that political issue should go. But just to tell you how these people are so they're so evil and they're so conniving, they have twisted in And they have made it so that if you support this wall, somehow you hate Mexican people or you hate brown people or whatever kind of people it's coming across. And the truth of the matter is that it's simply a common sense proposal. Well, the same with Christianity. Somebody will say, man, you really hate gays. You really hate transgenders. I don't hate nobody. You know what I do hate? I hate people who lie about my motivations. When you could simply ask me. Because there's nothing hidden, right? I don't hide it. There's no shame in the game. If I did hate somebody, I would just say it. If I don't like somebody, I'll just say it. I don't got no problem doing that. We don't hide what our motivations are here. Whether we are motivated by some personal animus. Every once in a while, you'll hear us talk about a story and we will just straight up say we don't like a certain person. And if that person don't like it, get bent. But the truth of the matter is that we're going to say the truth as it should be said. What are we motivated by? We're motivated by a desire to be a pillar and a buttress for the truth, which means we support truth. We support examining the facts. We support logic and common sense. But where does logic and common sense come from? Everything first has to start with first principles. The first principle is that God gave us truth. And from there we have logic and get to reason and get to make arguments that are secondary to that. But your first principle must be important and it must be right. Now, other people have other first principles. And they'll say that a faith-based first principle is irrational and not a good system. But that's not the case. No matter what system of thought that you have, you will always have a first principle that you have to accept by faith. Whether that be that the Big Bang banged and nobody know what caused it to bang and it just banged on its own. Whether that be that the earth is on the back of a giant turtle. Whether that be that existence popped out of nowhere and all of a sudden that created the complexity of the universe that we have right now. Whether that be time somehow just suddenly started, and it had to suddenly start because if time was infinite, all the atoms that we see now would have disintegrated. No matter what it is, your first principle, how things started, is one based on faith. Now, I choose to believe my first principle based on a God who has through time proven himself to be right. But it's still based on faith because I don't see it, right? I don't see God. But it's still based on faith in the sense that I had to believe it first and then I saw the signs. It's a lot similar to love. I love my wife. I believe that she loved me. But it was through expressing and showing that love that she had the opportunity to prove that she really did love me. It's the same with faith in God. So those are our first principles. And anybody who has questions about our motivations, they can ask us directly instead of assuming. But when you see these articles, I just want you to know I see these articles and I read them all the time because I want to know what the nuts are thinking. There's lots of crazy people out there. So if you see these kind of things, hey, send them to me. I love reading them. They are very informative, but they also can be scary because you're examining the mindset of a nutcase.